Now proceed to leaders' questions. Under Standing Order 36, and I call Deputy MaryLou McDonald, please.
Taoiseach, this time 2 years ago we were in the midst of a general election. You'll recall the election was brought about by the crisis in health. It was an election in which workers and families, frustrated, fed up with the repeated failures of successive governments in housing and healthcare, voted for change in huge numbers. Now, 2 years on, and in the cold light of day, people see that these crises in housing and health have only gotten worse. We have record rents, soaring house prices, and 1 million people on treatment waiting lists. And if that wasn't enough, households struggle to keep up with the cost of living that is out of control. People are under huge pressure as they're hammered by non-stop price hikes in every area. And the living standard of workers and families is squeezed by the highest rate of inflation in 20 years and a lack of government action. For far too many people, being ourselves again means the stress and the struggle of trying to keep up with soaring costs while wages stay the same. So the yearly cost of putting food on the table is to go up by nearly €800. The cost of running a car by an average of €500. Record rents up by 80.1%. Families paying the equivalent of a second mortgage in childcare costs. The cost of lighting and heating your home up a massive 53%. It's never ending. All of this adds up to a cost of living that is unbearable, and the government must urgently deliver a plan that gets these costs down. But this urgency is sorely absent. People have been hit with 35 energy price hikes in the last year, and the government has been far too slow to react. The €100 credit for energy bills comes very late. You didn't deal with this in the budget, you refused to sit on this matter in December, and now it will come into force only in March or April. Costs are now so far out of control, Taoiseach, that this will not be a game changer for families paying thousands just to light and heat their homes. And bear in mind that families pay these off-the-wall bills today, and the benefit of the €100 will likely be cancelled out as costs increase further. So workers and families stretch themselves to make it to the end of the week, and they deserve better than this slack response from government. They need real action. Tá costas marachtála imethe ó smacht, tá daoine cráite margheall an ordú mór a phraisne tá imethe ó smacht, tá sé thráim ag an rialtas go níomhí éanamh agus fuaisibh a thabhairt do dhaoine. Taoiseach, do you accept that we need greater urgency in dealing with this cost of living crisis? Do you accept that there needs to be a step change in your approach? Have you, as Taoiseach, engaged with the Commission for the Regulation of Utilities on this worsening crisis? Have you directed Minister Eamon Ryan to get the heads of energy companies around the table to devise solutions for hard-pressed customers? Because without government action, things will get worse for families, just keeping their heads above water. This is, you see, a vicious cycle. It is never ending. And it's no way for our people to live or to build a future. Your lack of urgency can't continue. It's time now for government to do its job and to protect workers and families from being fleeced.
Deputy Taoiseach, please.
First of all, Deputy, you did reference in your opening remarks the situation in relation to housing and health prior to raising the issue of the cost of living. And may I say that without question, this government has embarked in a step change in relation to housing, in its Housing for All strategy, and in terms of over €4 billion per annum investment now from the state alone, in addition to private sector investment. The largest social housing programme ever to be concluded will occur in 2022. Affordable housing, the Land Development Agency legislation passed, and so on, which will make a difference. over 30,000 housing commencements already to the end of 2021, with higher outcomes now expected in 2022. So we are making progress on housing, but there's a long way to go. I'd acknowledge that, and there are significant challenges. On health, you omitted completely any reference to the fact that our health service has stood up to a 1 in 100 year event, the pandemic, COVID-19, which really placed huge challenges to our health service. And we resourced our health service to extraordinary degrees to combat the challenges of COVID-19. And in terms of mortality and levels of illness, we did better than most, actually, across Europe. And the bottom line is this, that did have an impact on waiting lists, without question. Now, in terms of the cost of living, nearly an hours ach go bhfuil an costas marach tála ag done an arda agus níl an tír seo freagrach as sin is rud atá ag tarlú fud an down mar is oldut agus tá dlúmhaint idir an policy atá san rúis ó héh gasanna de agus preisanna gasanna agus dóhan gasanna ag tachtón rúis sin bun agus spár faibe an dáin fíl áthir ó héh an costas marach tála. That is to say, the inflation has picked up across the world. In your analysis, you ignored the global impact. It's been almost all global in terms of the inflationary cycle. As you know, Europe receives a large majority of its gas supply from Russia. Lower flows of gas from there has been a major factor. And the geopolitical tensions at the moment in terms of the Ukraine could exacerbate that and make things even worse if there was to be any military incursion with all of the consequences that would flow from that. So, and in addition to that, then you had COVID supply chain issues arising out of COVID. There were global supply chain issues which also impacted in terms of an increase in inflation. Now, the government did respond in the budget through the €5 fuel allowance increase and the good social protection initiatives, a tax package also worth about 520 million to help people, to assist people in terms of disposable income. The welfare package is about 558 million. And 1.8 million working families will benefit from the tax package alone this year. I note that Sinn Féin's alternative budget did not include indexation of income tax bands and credits, which would have meant an increase, if we had to follow that policy, in the tax for workers across the board. The other interventions we took in terms of extending GP cover, as the Vincentian model illustrates, that can often be very impactful in terms of minimum income, disposable incomes for people more generally. And so we did some targeted measures in terms of the social protection approach, which will help people particularly on low income. Across the European Central Bank has said that this is a pandemic inflationary cycle. That does remain to be seen, but today the government took a decision in terms of making, in terms of the legislation that will be required to give everyone a 100 plus euro deduction from their electricity bills, which will also help in addition to the budgetary measures that we took.
McDonald.
Taoiseach, the truth is that there has been no step change affected by your government. What we have seen is more of the same. And the proof of that is that house prices are up 14%, rents are up 8%. The truth is that you have continued with the same of the same. And rather than hearing an answer from you, you reach for excuses. I'm well aware of the international context. I'm well aware of the inflationary pressures. And by the way, the Governor of the Central Bank has made clear that this is not a momentary phenomenon. This is with us for the next year. So, Taoiseach, I want you to listen to people. I want you to listen to the experiences of families who tell us, who tell you that they are struggling to keep the lights on, struggling to keep up with their bills and their costs. And I want you to make clear what your government proposes to do about that. You're introducing your €100 relief for energy costs, but that comes very late, and in truth, it will not be sufficient. I want to know what you will do by way of addition, and I have suggested to you that you act and that Minister Ryan act to ensure that there are solutions for customers, solutions for families
Deputy.
who are struggling today?
We do listen to people, and today, for example, government approved well over 100 million expenditure on Devaney Gardens. Well over 1,000 houses will be provided. Yes, what price does Deputy O'Brien? Because it's always more the same from Sinn Féin. We're going to oppose it anyway. You know, you've opposed over through the chair, if I may, you've opposed over 6,000 houses that families could have done with over the last number of years. And what struck me this morning was, in relation to Devaney Gardens, the latest iteration of that was 2015. It actually goes back to 2008. Successive city councils, an inability to vote for it, an inability to support Oscar Traynor Road, and there's a housing crisis there, and we need to get houses built. But your attitude, Deputy O'Brien, and your colleagues, is to go on and go on and go on, vote against that model and vote against the next model. We, in terms of the cost of living, through the chair, there is a very key issue here, and we acknowledge that and we know that. And we've taken steps in terms of both the budget and in terms of the tax package and in terms of the legislation today, which will facilitate some degree of reduction. But we will do more as well, and we will engage with the social partners, and we will engage in terms of trying to work ways through protecting people and to cushioning people and helping people over the next 12 months with a view to weathering this very significant increase in prices that is occasioned by global situation, as you well know, particularly Russia's behaviour and approach in terms of restricting gas supplies to the West.
Thank you very much.